province et un territoire. L'union de deux personnes du même sexe par le mariage civil est reconnue par la loi. Alors, le débat d'aujourd'hui ne porte pas sur la question de savoir si on devrait modifier la définition de mariage. Elle a déjà été modifiée. Le débat se résume à savoir si nous devrions passer outre à un droit déjà établi. Le débat se résume à la charte, à la protection des droits des minorités, et à savoir si le gouvernement devrait invoquer la disposition de dérogation. Je sais que d'aucuns pensent qu'on devrait invoquer cette disposition. Par exemple, certains dirigeants religieux sont de cet avis. Ils ont eu la franchise, et je respecte cela, de reconnaître publiquement que le mariage entre homosexuels étant déjà légal, presque partout au pays, la seule façon, je répète, la seule façon de faire à nouveau du mariage la prérogative exclusive des couples de sexe opposé est d'appliquer la clause dérogatoire. Ultimately, Mr. Speaker, there is only one issue before the House in this debate. For most Canadians, in most parts of our country, same-sex marriage is already the law of the land. Thus, the issue is not whether rights are to be granted. The issue is that whether rights that have been granted are to be taken away. Now, some are frank and straightforward and say yes. Others have not been so candid. Despite being confused, despite being confronted with clear facts, you are. Despite being confronted... Despite being confronted with clear facts, despite being confronted with the unanimous opinion of 134 legal scholars, experts in their field, intimately familiar with the Constitution, some have chosen to not be forthright with Canadians. They have eschewed the honest approach in favor of the political approach. They have attempted to cajole the public into believing that we can return to the past with a simple snap of the fingers, that we can revert to the traditional definition of marriage without consequence and without overriding the Charter. They are insincere, they are disingenuous, and they are wrong. There is one question that demands an answer, a straight answer from those who would seek to lead this nation and its people. It's a simple question. Will you use the notwithstanding clause to overturn the definition of civil marriage and deny Canadians a right that is guaranteed under the Charter? This question does not demand rhetoric, it demands clarity. There are only two legitimate answers, yes or no. Not the demagoguery we have heard, not the dodging, not the flawed reasoning, not the false options, simply yes or no. Will you take away a right that is guaranteed under the Charter? I, for one, will answer that question, Mr. Speaker, and I will answer it clearly. I will say no. La disposition de dérogation fait partie de la Charte des droits. Mais si aucun Premier ministre ne l'a encore appliquée, c'est pour cause. Qu'un Premier ministre se serve des pouvoirs qui lui sont conférés par sa fonction pour nier explicitement, plutôt que d'affirmer un droit inscrit dans la Charte, lancerait à toutes les minorités le message suivant, qu'elle ne peut plus se tourner vers le dirigeant du pays et vers la Constitution pour assurer leur protection, leur sécurité et la garantie de leur liberté. Le Canada risquera alors de devenir un pays où la défense des droits est sous-pesée, calculée, et débattu en fonction de considérations électorales ou autres. Cela nous fera régresser de plusieurs décennies sur le plan collectif. Ce ne sera pas la chose à faire pour les minorités de notre pays. Ce ne sera pas la chose à faire pour le Canada. Mr. Speaker, the Charter is a living document. It is the heartbeat of our Constitution. It is also a proclamation. It declares that as Canadians, we live under a progressive and inclusive set of fundamental beliefs about the value of the individual. It declares that we are all lessened when any one of us is denied a fundamental right. We cannot exalt the Charter as a fundamental aspect of our national character and then use the notwithstanding clause to reject the protections that it would extend. Our rights must be eternal, not subject to political whim. Those who value the Charter, yet oppose the protection of rights for same-sex couples, I ask you, the Prime Minister and a national government are willing to take away the rights of one group, what is there to say that they will stop at that? If the Charter is not there today to protect the rights of one minority, then how can we as a nation of minorities ever hope, ever believe, ever trust that it will be there to protect us tomorrow? My responsibility as Prime Minister, my duty to Canada and to Canadians, is to defend the Charter in its entirety, not to pick and choose the right that our laws will protect and those that are to be ignored, not to declare those who shall be equal and those who shall not be equal. My duty is to protect the Charter as some in this House will not. Let us never forget that one of the reasons that Canada is such a vibrant nation, so diverse, so rich in the many cultures and races of the world, is that immigrants who come here, as was the case with the ancestors of many of us in this chamber, feel free and are free to practice their religion, to follow their faith, and to live as they want to live. No homogeneous system of beliefs is imposed on them. When we as a nation protect minority rights, we are protecting our multicultural nature. We are reinforcing the Canada we cherish. We are saying proudly and unflinchingly that defending rights, not just those that happen to apply to us, not just those that everyone else approves of, but all fundamental rights, is at the very soul of what it means to be a Canadian. This is a vital aspect of the values we hold dear and strive to pass on to others in the world who are embattled, who endure tyranny, whose freedoms are curtailed, and whose rights are violated. Why is the Charter so important, Mr. Speaker? We have only to look at our own history. Unfortunately, Canada's story is one in which not everyone's rights were protected under the law. We've not been free from discrimination. We've not been free from bias or unfairness. And there have been blatant inequalities. Remember that it was once thought perfectly acceptable to deny women personhood and the right to vote. There was a time not that long ago that if you wore a turban, you couldn't serve in the RCMP. The examples are many. But what's important now is that they are part of our past, not our present. Over time, perspectives changed. We evolved, we grew, and our laws evolved and grew with us. And that is as it should be. Our laws must reflect equality, not as we understood it a century or even a decade ago, but as we understand it today. Pour les homosexuels et les lesbiennes, l'évolution des attitudes sociales a permis d'apporter au fil des ans un certain nombre de changements législatifs importants. Rappelez-vous que jusqu'à la fin des années 60, l'État croyait avoir un droit de regard sur notre chambre à coucher. Jusqu'en 1977, l'homosexualité pouvait encore servir de motif d'expulsion. Jusqu'en 1992, les personnes gays n'étaient